Hi, this is Susan Carlson. Welcome to my studio. I would like to talk a little bit about this quilt. It's entitled Peace, Love, Tie-Dye, Save the Whales. It's a portrait of my son Sam when he was 13 years old. One thing I am especially happy with in this piece is the use of some novelty fabrics. And I'd like to show you a couple of the prints that I've used in each one of the panels. Peace, Love, Tie-Dye, Save the Whales. So starting with Peace. Here you have peace signs, of course. And I've worked them into his face and his hair. So we've got there on his neck. There's some other peace signs here. You can see where I've cut them out from the fabric using some of the green so that it blends a little bit. Now another thing about Sam at that age, and even now, he loves cucumbers. So here's some cucumber novelty fabric. You wouldn't necessarily think about putting them in the face, but they're green. And I've used them in the nose, the cheek, and there right underneath his lips. Now moving on to Love, I found some great novelty fabric here that has some skulls and crossbones on them. Now, what was important about the skull and crossbone is that he loved skull and crossbone shirts, so I had to cut that out and it became part of this little t-shirt bit down there. Also, I used, right here, you can see some of the heart and flowers became a mom tattoo. I mean, you got to have that, right? Especially for a 13-year-old. And then up here, oh yeah, some of the heart. See the heart right there? Got worked into his cheek. So those were fun using something like that that you normally wouldn't use for a portrait, right? And then of course you've got good old Love, Peace, that looks very 60s, 70s. And that went right up here for Love on his forehead. Now moving on down to tie-dye. I did use tie-dye fabrics from a friend in a class. But then I also found this. I know some of you liked it when I used clothing. So here you go. This was a shirt, but you can see it's definitely tie-dyed, and it really came in handy for some of this, the design that's right here. And I was able to cut out some of these lines, these kind of flowy lines in the fabric, and use them over here in the hair especially. It really came in handy. And then another thing I used for this one was some of the fabric from this shirt of Sam's. This was his, and he painted this, he tie-dyed this in a little class one time, but you can see I used some of the fabric right here as highlights on his nose, his cheek, and his chin. So it has some of his own clothing in it as well. And then the last one is Save the Whales, which was a little thing we came up with. We went down to New Zealand one time as a family trip, and we ended up going on a whale watch and saw a sperm whale, which was pretty cool. So I definitely had to work in some of these little whales into his cheek. And see, there's a sperm whale, and up here in his forehead as well. And then this fabric I got in New Zealand. It's actually a design based on the paua shell, the abalone shells found in their waters. And that was here in his cheek. Another version I put up in his eyeglasses. So, you know, being a portrait of Sam, and it also has things about him worked into it. So they're just a few of the fabrics that I used in here. It was a really fun thing to do, and it's nice to work in as part of the story. Some of the fabrics that you choose can be part of the story about the quilt. And that's what's always kind of fun to do. Thanks.